what did you make of Drake May's performance yesterday? Look, at the end, he did what he had to do, and there's no taking that away. Um, but he did look very shaky at the beginning. Um, this he threw maybe his worst pass of his Patriots career.
It's up there. That
it's up
interception
there.
was pretty bad.
Is this just? This is just. How did you rate his performance? Did it wasn't indicative of how he's played this year?
Definitely not. Unsettled is the word that I would use. He didn't feel like he was comfortable with what he was seeing, and I think that led him to playing a little tentative at times. And instead of my analysis, I would just defer to Mike Vrabel immediately after the game. I thought he was straightforward and honest when he said, admittedly, this wasn't one of his better games. And I think specifically he might have mentioned just sort of, I don't know if he used the word mentally, but just sort of, that part of the game.
Okay, the run defense, and I know Milton Williams isn't there, but the run defense was so great, and now for a couple of weeks, Fields was a part of it in the Jets game, but for a couple of weeks, it hasn't been good, and yesterday it was bad.
Yeah.
What are you seeing? Why is that?
Well, so 3 weeks in a row, Fred, they've allowed the opponent to average over 5 yards a carry. So we are now almost a month removed from that great statistic that we had talked about, how the Patriots defense had not allowed an opposing running back 50 yards or more in a game. That's gone. And I think it comes back to fundamentals and getting off blocks and being disciplined and staying in your gap. And they got to get back to it. And I think that's a theme for the team that I see right now is I used the analogy last night on TV, like almost like a car battery that's a little bit drained right now and needs to be, you need the jumper cables. See if you can get that battery back charged up again.
Okay, two big injuries on the offensive line. The guard had a boot and a cane after the game. Will Campbell goes to the tent. He's taken off in a cart. So Campbell especially, that can't be good.
So, well, I watched him, Fred, walk out of the stadium, with a black brace. It looked to me like a full leg brace, but, it's a knee brace, but it was almost from his, thigh down to the shin area. Watched his facial expression and as you would expect, he was upset. What to read into that? I don't want to be an alarmist. I would just defer to what Mike Vrabel said within the last hour in one of his interviews. He said he obviously doesn't expect Will to play in this upcoming game Monday night. He said that injury is going to probably be more than a week or two. I think waiting on tests, usually in these situations, they go through MRIs on a Monday to get more information, and that's where we are right now.
Because, as you know, when they go to that blue tent, they can tell that something's torn in the knee. Like an MRI tells you what's torn and to what degree, but, that's why they take you off in a cart. The knee. Not with other things, but with the knee. They can move it around. That's how they know. At least in my experience with athletes that I've dealt with, they can feel the knee moving around, and that's why the player's so dejected when they're leaving, is because generally they know something's torn in the knee.
Well, and Fred, I think on this one, I tend to do this, I think worst case scenario, which I think a lot of us are sort of programmed to do. There's a possibility that it is. And Mike Vrabel mentioned this in his interview.
Go ahead, the
today.
radio. Yes, he's on the radio. They don't do a good job, but go ahead.
He was asked about, is it possible this is just a sprain? And he said, well, the thing you have to understand, and I'm paraphrasing him, is a sprain or a strain can have differing levels of severity. So there is a possibility here that nothing is torn and that it is just a significant sprain or strain. And I think based on what we saw with the cart what I saw with the brace and his facial expression, if that's the case, that would be the best case scenario.
And I won't argue with that, and I am not an injury expert, but just a lot of times when it's a sprain, they'll take them off the field, and sometimes they'll even come back and stand, or they'll come back to the sidelines, or it generally isn't you're off in a cart. It's I'm when they and look, I don't want Will Campbell to be hurt, but I'm just saying that they know what they're doing down there. They're like there's a way to tell. I'm just specifically like Achilles and knee. They kind of know. Now, if it's an MCL, could he come back this year? Absolutely. But I highly doubt it's a severe sprain, right? Like they would let him walk off. I don't know.
But the thing is, with whether it's a sprain or a strain, if there's varying degrees, it's not necessarily better. Like if it's a severe sprain or a strain of some kind,
it wouldn't take surgery.
It wouldn't take surgery, but you could still miss, significant time, and at that point, who knows where you're at.
Right. It's just I don't think it's a sprain.
And I'm going to give you this detail, guys. So he went out at 4:58 of the third quarter. I went down to the locker room in the mid fourth quarter just to be down there for the end of the game, and I watched Will Campbell be carted from what I assume was the X-ray room to the locker room. So he was still on a cart, basically from when he left that play, third quarter, 5 minutes left to about, I'm going to say when I went down to the locker room was after Borregales' short field goal. So almost a full quarter. So that gives you a little behind the scenes as to what was happening.
That's good. That's good information.
That's very good information. So I'm a fatalist, Mike, after watching both of those injuries. I mean, to me, it was tough to see what happened to Wilson, for lack of a better phrase. It looked like he wasn't rolled up on, and it was non-contact, which is bad. And then seeing Williams get carted off with a towel over his head because he was crying is bad. Can the Patriots, I'm assuming they're going to be out for a while here, can the Patriots patch it together and succeed without those two guys out there?
I'm going to say yes, John, because they have really good coaching. And it is a drop-off. But I'm going to say yes because why am I going to say yes? Just because I feel like this – no, and it's hard. This is hard. I mean, it's also a quick turnaround. I think this team is 10-2. They've checked off almost every box that's been put before them. And so instead of taking the glass half empty view, why not say, well, let's see if they can check off that box.
Yeah, well, yeah, sure. I mean, they're 10-2. I don't think like the season's going to fall apart, but it just seems
expectations are different for me this morning than they were yesterday.
Well, absolutely. Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, for a myriad of reasons, their run defense is softened. I think the season's taken a toll, as it does for a lot of teams. I think Maye's great. I don't look at yesterday's game as being like Maye's not great. I don't think he's going to win MVP, but Maye, I think Stafford is. But, Maye is great. Will someone spit water? I just made a statement. That's an inside joke, Mike. That doesn't involve you. That's a Dondero joke. He spat water. He couldn't believe that Maye wouldn't win MVP. But there are leaks. You know what I'm saying? And you have to see that. And this doesn't look like the same team. They're 10-2. Look, man, I know what you're going to do. You're all going to yell at me, so that's fine. Not you guys, but the audience, and I don't care. But the team doesn't look as strong as it did 3-4 weeks ago. I will say that. I believe that.
I think that is fair. You mentioned some of the leaks. Well, can we get a yard at the goal line?
Right. Yeah. Not great.
I'm speaking from their perspective. I think that's part of it. Pass rush. And I think, Fred, the counter, not the counter, but the two things I would say. Tell me a team other than the Rams that is ascending at a rapid pace. So I think there's an aspect of this. Just hang in the fight as long as you can and hope that you're at your best when it matters. And hope isn't a strategy, but you got to keep working at it and get to that bye week. Like I go back to that. Like I think they're sort of laboring here because
Yes.
it's a lot of weeks in
It's
succession.
a lot of weeks in a row before the bye. This late bye seems like it was a disadvantage. You're absolutely
I agree.
right.
I agree. And so is it unrealistic? This is my question to you guys to say, okay, can you battle through one more week if you're the Patriots, get to 11 wins, get that week off and recharge? And can you come back on December 14th against the Bills and be that team we saw 2-3 weeks ago? I don't know. I don't know if you can, because I'm going to tell you guys, there was some stuff at practice last week, if you read between the lines, that I don't think Mike Vrabel was thrilled with. When you listen to them talk, like they got to tighten this stuff up at practice because it's getting into the games. That I deduce that from listening to him and players, and I think that's your point, Fred. Like they got to get back to it, and we'll see if they can.
Yeah, and no, I'm not saying they can, but it is certainly interesting and an interesting game, a good game yesterday, and an interesting game. A little disappointed Burrow didn't play, but there you go.
For all the latest from the Sports Hub, download the app at 985thesportshub.com.